But I would actually rather not do this right now because I'm feeling really tired and I'm not sure if um, if my points are going to come across clearly or if I'm even going to remember what I wanted to say. So late last night at like 10:30, I made some notes of things that I wanted to speak this morning. And I got all inspired and I kept on putting more and more points. And but now I'm not sure if I'll be able to remember all those points properly. So that's what I'm thinking I should. I'm just doing this now, just to, yeah, but I'll probably delete this video and then redo it later, or maybe I'll write something. Um, but, okay, so I'm just looking on my screen at some of my notes here. Alright, so, yeah, I was just thinking last night, yeah, why are we memorizing these verses? If it's, we can just try to memorize them, so that we can know lots of stuff and we can become a pundit. And if somebody asks us to speak, then I'll be able to say this verse from memory, and I'll be able. That's why I like to learn lots of verses. And that's why I like to read lots of scriptures. I'm thinking, oh, this is something I can say. Um, a lot of it is really for my own pride, and I want people to think I know a lot. But, and then I've really been cheated out of the real reason to learn these verses. Because in these verses, like, these are, each verse encapsulates something that we want, just in a few words. So much is contained there, especially this verse, Anyabi Lashita Shunyam Gyana Karma Dinavatam. This is, this is everything that we're striving for. So just in a few syllables, Srila Rupa Goswami, he took from so many different verses, he took the main points of, for bhakti in each verse. You'll see in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he shows all the different verses that he took the essence from. From Srimad Bhagavatam, there are so many, and I think from other places, not at Pancharatra maybe. Can't remember, it's been a long time since I've seen that. But, and he took all the main points and then he encapsulated everything into one verse. And he wrote it in such a careful way that no misunderstanding could be there. And so like with this verse, Anyabilashita Shunyam, instead of just trying to learn it and trying to memorize all these different points, we have to honor this verse and pray that this verse may be, that these words of Srila Rupa Goswami, that Srila Rupa Goswami himself, and these words that he's giving us, that they'll be merciful to me, and I'll be able to realize them. The meaning will become, I'll be able to actually understand and imbibe what's in these, in this verse. And so this verse isn't just, it's a whole practice. It's something that we'll realize more and more over time if Srila Rupa Goswami and this verse, these words are merciful to us. If we're really sincerely trying and praying, then we'll get more and more out of this verse. Every time we read it, new meanings will come. It will become more sweet and more relevant, and they'll start to like live by these verses. And so, also you'll start to see how all the words of our acharyas are just explanations. They're like purports of all these verses. You'll start to see everything. You'll start to make new connections. You'll start to see everything in relation to these verses. They're like, and even if you have some, new understanding or realization, then you'll be able to see how much you're on track through these verses. They keep us on track. And also something that you realize, something that you go through, lots of times that will fade over time, but these verses are permanent. And so if we can when we memorize them, then they'll always be with us. And yeah, anyhow. So in this verse, Anyavilasha Shunyam, there is something that my Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj said that that really made this verse a lot more close, like a lot more relevant to me. And I just wanted to share that emphasis on that. So it was on that point of on the why the word anukul is being used. And first, let's just recap that. This is from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It says, this is Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary. So he said that the intrinsic characteristic of bhakti has been defined as the cultivation of activities in relation to Sri Krishna, Krishnanushilan. Now, in order to qualify this definition, the word anukulena will be explained. In order to establish the inherent nature of bhakti, the qualifying adjective anukulena, which means favorably disposed, has been used, because bhakti is not accomplished by unfavorable behavior. Certain liberal-minded philosophers have defined the meaning of the word anukulya as behavior or engagement that is pleasing. In other words, they say that bhakti, or the cultivation of activities in relation to Sri Krishna, should be pleasing to him. Such engagement that is pleasing to Krishna is termed as anukulya vishishta bhakti, devotion that is favorable to the pleasure of Krishna. But by accepting this kind of meaning, the faults of ativyakti, overextension, and avyakti, underextension, may become present in the definition of bhakti. So, ativyakti means when the definition is too wide. It's encompassing things that are not to be included within the description. And avyakti means that the definition is too narrow, and it excludes things which should be included within the description. So, like, the bhakti should be like this, but ativyakti is like, no, that's taking it too far. And avyakti is like, no, you're not taking it far enough. It needs to be, there. So when the demons Trinura and Mushtika and others, when all these demons were striking the limbs of Sri Krishna in the wrestling match, it gave Krishna much pleasure, much happiness. He felt great happiness. He began to taste viraras, heroism, with great enthusiasm in their company. In this example, the asura's activity of striking the Lord appears to be pleasing to Krishna. So, when in that article that we read, I just wanted to highlight this one point that my Param Gurudev made. And we'll see how carefully, how perfect all these words Srila Rupa Goswami chose were for bhakti, and how actually this relates so much to me right now. Because when I just hear this example of Trinura and Mushtika, I'm like, okay, yeah, I get the point, but it doesn't really feel relevant to me. I can't relate to it as much, but Param Gurudev made it very relevant. So I'm just going to read that right now. Okay, well, I'm just going to read one paragraph first that he wrote. The word anukulyena prevents the faults of underextension, avyapti dosh, and overextension, ativyapti dosh, from tainting the definition of bhakti. In the instrumental case, the adjective anukulya becomes anukulyena by means of kindness. If someone aspires to perform Krishnanushilanam, perpetual, ardent endeavors meant exclusively for Sri Krishna, then he must first become anukul, genuinely kind to him. It must be his sole ambition to please and satisfy Sri Krishna, and he must completely expel even the slightest trace of hostility, patikulata, from his heart. Even if someone's Krishnanushilanam temporarily seems to be entirely favorable for Sri Krishna, If it is not utterly devoid of an underlying adversity and any craving for personal gratification, then it is not bhakti. Although his endeavors may momentarily, uh, Although his endeavors may momentarily please his worshipful Lord, if they harbor any personal, selfish, ulterior motives or any motivation besides pleasing the Lord, he'll fail to procure the actual fruit of bhakti, namely superlative love of Godhead, prem. Instead, the result he obtains will simply correspond to his underlying motivations. So it's all about the underlying motivations while performing an activity. So um, that's why that example of Trinura Mustika has been given. Yeah, they were pleasing Krishna. They're making Krishna super happy. But what was their underlying motivation? Was it full of anukul, this desire for, you know, yes, I only want the best for Krishna. I want it's all out of love, really. Anukul is meaning love, um, so this is an example. This is what I wanted to read actually from my own Gurudev. Pleasing Gurudev gives me life. Many of the disciples of our Srila Gurudev, Jagat Guru Paramaradha Tama Sri Srila Prabhupada, many of these disciples, they gave their bodies, minds, words, and wealth to assist in fulfilling his heart's deepest ambitions. Although he was immensely pleased by their service, or Anushilan, it is seen that some of them, even after serving him in this way for many years, were willing to abandon him, their own guru, their guru tyag. Or they were, the others, they developed guru bhog. They had the propensity to exploit their gurudev, to enjoy all this property that they get, all this fame that they get, and being in connection with their gurudev. So this is guru bhog. Money, fame, all these things that come from being connected. Even just, being popular or having friends, all these different things is guru bhog. So, you have some kind of sense of, being part of something, and yeah, you're enjoying that. So instead of trying to imbibe the ideal and character of our Sri Guru Padma, who is perpetually wrapped in bhajan, they have simply imitated his external activities and audaciously costumed themselves as gurus. Not even the first stage of bhakti has manifested in their hearts. So despite giving their body, mind, words, and everything for their Gurudev, and immensely pleasing him, really, like he's so happy with what they're doing. Well, at least it seems like that. But still, even after that, not even the first stage of bhakti is manifested in their hearts. If we contemplate the cause for this, we find that as they served him, they failed to maintain the attitude, Srila Gurudev will be pleased by accepting my service, and pleasing him gives me life. Since they served him with many other motives, and not exclusively with the hope of pleasing him, they were cheated out of obtaining the principal fruit of serving a sadhu, and have instead attained whatever they secretly desired. If someone's purpose is genuine, then as bhakti appears in his heart, all its symptoms, which are mentioned in the scriptures, will manifest in him, and all hankerings and aspirations opposed to bhakti will gradually diminish. So, I'm just going back to my notes here. So yeah, this word anukula is trying to please Krishna, but not in a shallow, superficial way, or not trying to please Krishna with some wanting something back from Krishna, wanting some, like, not trying to make him happy so that you get this actual thing that you really want, which is for yourself. But no, it's solely for Krishna's benefit. It's out of love for Krishna, really wanting to please him. So the example has been given of Mother Yashoda, that even though she wasn't actually trying, she wasn't seemingly pleasing him, But what was her intent was she only wanted the best for Krishna. She wanted the ultimate welfare. She wanted to ultimately please him, even if he didn't know that it would be pleasing that it would be pleasing for him. And there's other examples like this. Like Srila Gorkashudas Babaji Maharaj, he instructed Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to never go to Kalikata, the place of Kali, Kolkata. And, that was like a very direct, clear instruction. But then what did he do? Right after, the first thing he did was establish his main headquarters in the very place that his Guru Maharaj told him not to go. That's where he made his center, Bagh Bazar Gaudiya Math. And so this is seemingly, against his Guru's order, his Guru's wish. And we also see Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj, he gives a whole example about how his Guru Maharaj gave him very clear instructions to, they made a huge exhibition, and Srila Bharati Maharaj, I might be getting this wrong, but I think he suggested, why don't we have, multiple lines, for different kinds of people. Maybe one for ladies, one for men, and one for, I can't remember, and one for like a VIP line. And Srila Bhakti Madhav Goswami Maharaj said, no, just one line, that's enough for the exhibitions. And Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj, he went against the order of his Gurudev. So this might seemingly be displeasing to his Gurudev. But then Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj explains how when the day of the exhibition came, then there were so many people and it was so crowded. But because he made this extra line, VIP line, that not everybody's allowed to go in, then when I forgot who it was, maybe the Prime Minister or some like really top person, I think it might have been the Prime Minister, anyways, when he arrived there, then Srila Bhakti Madhav Goswami Maharaj, he was able to just bring him up to the exhibition without all this problem and all this crowd. They were just able to walk right up to it. And it ended up becoming very helpful. And Srila Bhakti Madhav Goswami Maharaj is very happy with Srila Bhaktivedanta Bharati Goswami Maharaj. So when there's actual love and this connection and this intimacy, then you can do things that are seemingly not pleasing to the to the person that you're serving, but actually you do understand what they want in a deeper way, and this is what it really means to understand the heart of somebody, and not just trying to please them in a shallow way for some selfish thing, and there's in this book Kriti Ratna by my Param Gurudev. It's filled with things about my Param Gurudev. It's a compilation book, but there's this one article that he writes, and he says, during Srila Prabhupada's time, we had the opportunity to witness the fact that one could not satisfy Gurudev's heart even by laboring tirelessly, day and night, with simple-hearted intent. So that seems really, what? That actually makes me feel like, oh God, there's no hope. If I labor tirelessly, day and night, with simple-hearted intent, then I won't be able to satisfy my Gurudev's heart. It's disheartening to hear that. But then my Param Gurudev says, only someone who understands the difference between Srila Gurudev's internal instructions and his external instructions are his worldly guidance, and acts accordingly, can attain true auspiciousness. So in these examples that I gave before about, what we hear of Mother Yashoda serving Krishna and even going against what he really wants at that moment, and thinking later on I'll be able to make these sweets. He'll be pleased. I can't make sweets out of my breast milk, but I can make sweets out of this. And if this milk is gone, then I won't be able to make these sweets that Krishna likes so much. So really, she was doing it for Krishna's pleasure, ultimately, but not just his immediate pleasure. And also the example I gave of Srila Bharati Maharaj, of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur going against the orders of their guru. Yeah, this is understanding guru's internal instructions, really. So, um, so just our own effort is not enough, and we can try our best to try to please Gurudev, but it's not just about trying our best, but no, we have to. This is something that we're working towards. That I mean, that we have to serve under the guidance of those who are really pleasing Gurudev, who actually understand, you know, um, who understand his heart. We have to try to, get these kinds of association of these devotees and respect them and serve them, not them as the objects, but like you've been serving Gurudev for so long, his, like having this mood of respect for your god brothers and god sisters and all these different devotees, and um, and then we follow this verse Anyabhilashita Shunyam in relation to Gurudev, just like our Param Gurudev explained it in relation to his Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we try to really, um, yeah, and first we strive to serve Gurudev like this, with this Anyabhilashitashunam Jnana Karma Vinavatam Anukuliyana Krishna Anushilanam Bhakti Uttama. And then more realizations will come out of this verse. We'll understand. And this verse will become more exciting and new and sweet. And so everything, whenever we're learning these verses, this is why we're learning these verses, is so that we can actually be able to start trying to apply them into our lives, and that we pray to them that they will be able to become, one with our heart, that this is what we will become, what's in these verses. So yeah, this is what we're striving towards. And even though this verse is immediately practical for us right now, like how we heard in Param Gurudev's examples there and stuff, but it's also the highest thing that we're striving towards. So it is also like, it's way up there. So what's the first step on how to get to that prem bhakti? So we've heard Srila Rupa Goswami, he's given us the process, and Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there's the verse Adau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Tapajana Kriya Tato Nartana Vritti. That verse goes through all the different levels. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anartana Vritti, Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, Prem. This is the whole sequence. And so the first step is Shraddha. To become a candidate for bhakti, to start on this path of bhakti, first you need Shraddha. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it said, Shraddhavan jan hoy bhakti adhikari. By becoming Shraddhavan, by possessing Shraddha, by becoming a Shraddhavan jan, a Shraddha person, a faithful person, then you'll attain the qualification to start this process of bhakti. And so, now I'm moving on to Shraddha. And we heard Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he explained that Shraddha is two things. First, it's having faith in the scriptures. And then the second thing, after that, is desiring to practice what the scriptures say with effort, respect, and care. So faith in the scriptures, and then desiring to do what the scriptures say with effort, respect, and care. These two things. And so there's, in the commentary of my Gurudev's commentary, he says that once one, in Madhurya Kadambini, he says, once one develops unflinching faith in these philosophical conclusions, one will realize that without Bhagavad Bhajan, life is absolutely useless. Concurrently, by hearing about Sri Hari's compassion and other qualities, as well as his pastime of delivering the fallen souls, the heart floods with hope and blossoms. A revulsion or distaste for fleeting pleasures then arises naturally. Therefore, for one who possesses such shraddha, maintaining a worthless life without bhajan becomes exceedingly insufferable, and surrender to the lotus feet of Sri Hari becomes natural. So that's why when we are learning this verse, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahe, Sudrida Nishchoy, Krishna Bhakti Koile Sarva, Karma Krita Hoy. By this word Shraddha Shabde, we can understand that this is Vishwas. It means complete faith and confidence and like that, and what is it? It's having this Sudrida Nishchoy, this very firm Nishtoy, certainty that only by performing Krishna Bhakti, when I perform Krishna Bhakti, Krishna Bhakti Koile, then Sarva Karma, all other activities, everything that I need to do in this world, all my obligations, and all the things that I even want to do, will all be accomplished just through doing Bhakti. And so if you actually have faith in that, if you actually feel that, then you're not going to just sit and be lazy. And no, you're going to feel immediately, you're going to be filled with like, okay, yes, I got to do this. And you're going to be filled with enthusiasm. And you're going to practice what the scriptures say with effort, respect, and care, like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur wrote. And so that is Sharanagati, really. That's why Srila Jiva Goswami says that one should understand that the meaning of Shraddha, faith, and Sharanagati, surrender, is the same. Unflinching faith in the purports of Scripture is called Shraddha. Scripture instructs devotees who are surrendered to Bhagavan's worshipful feet to be fearless. Those who are not surrendered are fearful. Therefore, when such unflinching faith in the purports of Scripture awakens, its symptom is surrender. In other words, only by surrender is the presence of faith identified. And so this understanding of Shraddha, even this verse that we learned, Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kahi Sudrita, this is really, it's showing me actually, okay, I'm able to look at myself and see, I don't actually really have so much Shraddha. Because I don't really think that just by performing Krishna Bhakti, then everything else that I want, everything else that I'm obliged to do, everything will be taken care of. And that's why I go to watch all these different YouTube videos all the time. And that's why I don't really want to wake up for Mangalarti. And that's why I want to, that's why I'm not surrendered. And so the more we can try to understand this verse, understand what Shraddha really is, then we can come to the platform of surrender, of Sharanagati. And Sharanagati actually isn't bhakti. It's just like, that's Shraddha. Well, no, I guess ultimately Sharanagati is bhakti, but really it's like my Gurudev would explain many times that it's the doorway to bhakti. That once you're fully surrendered, then you've like started on the process. And so once you have Shraddha, that's why Shraddha is the first step. Sharanagati is the first step. And so those are the two things. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, having faith in the scriptures and desiring to practice what the scriptures say. And these two are further divided into two. He says that it's, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Shraddha is Subhavaki, or it is Bal Purvak Utpadita. So these are and Srila Jiva Goswami says that there's Shastriya Sadhu or Lokik Shraddha. And another explanation I've heard is Paramarthik Shraddha and Komal Shraddha. So I'll go through these right now. Actually, no. Before I get into that, I just wanted to mention one more point. In this explanation of Shraddha, Patanjali, he said, he defined Shraddha as Shraddha Chetasa Samprasadata. It's absolute happiness of the heart. And so, when I'm doing something in bhakti, when I'm doing my anik, when I'm chanting Harinam, when I'm doing any activity in bhakti and I'm not feeling happiness, why am I not feeling happiness? Why am I not feeling any joy? Why am I not wanting to do it all the time? Why don't I have faith that I just need to do this and everything else will be taken care of? It's because I'm lacking shraddha. That's why I'm not getting happiness out of it. That's why I don't want to surrender. And when you're actually surrendered, then any seeming misery actually becomes happiness. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's song, he says, Tomar sevai dukkha hoy jata, sheo to paramasuka. In your service, whatever suffering I experience becomes the ultimate, the param sukha, the supreme happiness. So if you don't do something with faith, then there's no feeling and no result. My Gurudev gave an example from Bhagavad Gita 17:28. Krishna says, even in other paths, in the path of karma, in the path of yoga, in any activity that you do, if you're not feeling, if you're not doing it with faith, then there's no point. You're not getting any result from it. It's not about the actions that you do, it's about the underlying faith that's in there. Like just if you were to, if you don't actually love somebody, you don't have faith in that person, you don't have that kind of trust in somebody, and you say, I love you, it doesn't mean anything, it's completely empty. Or if you're upset with somebody, but you're made to apologize to them and you say, sorry, then what does that sorry mean? It doesn't mean anything, it's empty. And so it's like that with Shraddha. If we don't actually have faith in if we don't have faith in the activity that we're doing, like what's in this verse, Krishna Bhakti Kailis Arva Karma Krita Hoy, then it's empty. And we won't get any happiness from it. It'll be, and so I'm just seeing that in my own life that, okay, I don't actually have this Shraddha. And right now, this, we heard Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he says Shraddha is of two types, Swabhaviki and Bal Purvak Utpadita. It's either naturally occurs, you have real natural faith, or you're trying to force it. Bal Purvak Utpadita. So one is the Bal Purvak Utpadita, trying to force this Shraddha by your own effort. That's the kind of Shraddha I have. I'm like trying to make myself have faith. But, and that's, by your own efforts. But the Shraddha that we want is coming from a higher place. It's Swabhaviki. It's completely natural. It comes when we hear Harikatha from the sadhu, or when we're reading Shastra, when we're reading these words of our acharyas, then all of a sudden we start to be filled with, inspiration and excitement, and like this kind of faith is like real faith. And, Srila Jiva Goswami calls it Shastriya Shraddha. It's coming from above down to us. Otherwise, it's Srila Jiva Goswami says it's lokika Shraddha. It's worldly. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls it Bal Purvak Utpadita. By our own efforts, we're trying to make it happen, our faith. And Jiva Goswami calls it lokika. It's worldly. It's material. It's not. So they mean the same thing. And I've heard it described other places. One is paramarthik. It's spiritual. It's coming from transcendental place. And the other is komal, it's pliable. It's, it's very weak. And you might give up faith all of a sudden. You hear one thing, you hear an atheist make some good points, and all of a sudden you're like, he has some good points there. And it's pliable. So, oh my God. I have to start the Srimad Bhagavatam class now. I had more things that I wanted to say on this. Anyhow, I'm just going to read this one quote that I got from my Gurudev. And then I'm going to end. Because I have 2 minutes actually to get ready. Okay. So, class by my Gurudev and Sharanagati. He says, on one hand, we have so much causeless mercy from Lord Krishna. And on the other hand, we have no respect and no belief that his name can give us money. We don't think that just by chanting Krishna, then we'll get everything that we need. We depend on our job and money-making activities, and not his name. We can see our ideals in our Guru Parampara. What was Srila Haridas Thakur doing for maintenance? What were Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, and myself doing? Nothing. And yet we are maintained better than all of you. I'm not maintaining my life. You are, by the inspiration of Sri Krishna. Have strong belief in this. These are the 6 limbs of Sharanagati, surrender to Sri Krishna. And then my Gurudev gives that verse. Anukulyasa sankalpa pratikulyasa varjanam rakshishya titi vishvaso goptritve varanam tata atma nikshepa karpanye sharanga sharanagati. And then he says, very strongly accept what is favorable for bhakti and strongly reject what is unfavorable. That's anukulyasa sankalpa, accepting what is favorable, and strongly varjanam, reject that which is pratikulyasa varjanam, reject that which is pratikul. Krishna Bhagavan has created all these worlds, and he is powerful enough to save anything and do anything. He's powerful enough to save anyone and to do anything. If you have taken his shelter and are surrendered, then give up everything on the head of Sri Krishna. And don't be worried. If he can create millions of universes, and he is supporting even a fish in the sea, and a bird in the midst of mountains where there's no one to maintain them, why won't he support you? Be like Sri Prahlad Maharaj. Have belief that Lord Krishna will support you, and you will see that he is true to the words he has spoken in the Bhagavad Gita. For those who are, these words of his, for those who are Ananya Bhaktas, those who do not know anyone other than me, I take the responsibility for all the paraphernalia of their lives on my head and shoulders. I carry that paraphernalia myself, and I support and nourish those devotees. He will surely keep his promise, but we have no strong faith in this, and this is why we suffer. You will suffer if you are not surrendered.
It's 7 o'clock.
Don't be upset. Be like Srila Haridas Thakur, who was beaten in so many marketplaces, and at the same time was always chanting Hare Krishna, and feeling no pain. Sri Prahlad Maharaj was given poison and thrown in a fire, but nothing happened to him. This is Shraddha. Srila Haridas Thakur told his executioners, even if you cut me in pieces, I cannot give up the chanting of the holy name. Be like this, and you'll see that Lord Krishna is always with you. So this is Shraddha, and this is Sharanagati. And anyhow, I'm going to end now. And I'll probably delete this video and try to do it better when I'm more awake and more focused and more, I have more of a grasp of what I want to say. But anyhow, this is just something for now. And alright, I am 1 minute late for my Srimad Bhagavatam class. So, Haribol, Jai Shri Radhe. Maybe I'll delete this video tomorrow. Maybe I can write something about this. That might be good. Anyhow, I don't know. I don't have so much time, so we'll see.